Are there dangers or risks with overtraining to get ready for D1?
Parents need to sit back and be parents and supportive of the program and what's going on, and not try to coach the program.
Why does it bother you so much to see what you see that's out there about nutrition and some of the choices that these student athletes are making?
I wanted kids to know that you do have a chance. I let them know that I didn't know how to do a layup until my freshman year.
When you were on that MVP stand podium and to your right or left was Carlos Boozer, you were on that stand because you have raw talent. All right, welcome to another episode of Pulse Check, everybody, where we talk about honest youth sports in today's world. This isn't just a podcast about reels, highlight reels, and hot takes. We really want to talk about the real, authentic stories, some of the gremlins, the things that are not so much the shiny objects that have to do with the stories of the athletes, the coaches, the administrators, all of the men and women that contribute to this large iceberg of what we call youth sports. And we really want to break down the nuances of the pressures that the families, the coaches, the athletes are really dealing with. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank our sponsors. Clean Plate Labs, full service digital media company, is one of our sponsors for the podcast today, and also Jelly Feet reusable foot covers. And with that being said, let's get right to our next guest. Every episode, I sit down with someone who lives it, someone who has been through the journey of life, which we all are really going through, right? But we all come to this platform with unique stories, and those stories build perspective. It builds what I call a level of education and mingling. We really want to promote that in this day and age in 2026. So with that being said, today's guest brings a rare lens as an elite athlete, a parent, an entrepreneur, a coach, someone, in my opinion, who has been on both sides of the equation or both sides of the table, the good conversations, the bad conversations, and everything else in between. So Coach B, it is my absolute pleasure to have you here with me today. I want to thank you, and I know you're busy and you've really taken some time out of your morning. So Coach, before we get into, what we're here to talk about today, please give our audience some perspective about where you're from, your background, so we can really get into, the nitty gritty.
Maceo, I'd first like to thank you for having me out tonight. It's kind of my first time doing a podcast, but I'm willing to share my experience and journey, and I've been looking forward to this. So thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yes. Just a quick on me. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. People are always like, whoa, that's so far away. I'm from Anchorage, Alaska. I was an athlete all through my life. As a kid, I played multiple sports, but ultimately in high school, I was an All-American in I was a first team All-American, Street and Smith All-American for basketball. I was a swimmer, second team All-American for two different relay teams that I was on. And I was a state champion in the 400 for track. So those are the sports that I finished in ultimately. And then I went on to play basketball at the University of Iowa. I was a team captain my freshman, sophomore, junior year. I played under Angie Lee, where I was recruited under Angie Lee, and then there was a change of coaches to Lisa Bluter after my sophomore year. And I always let everyone know that it's been a great journey. It's shaped me to who I am. My senior year, I tried to decide if I was going to play anything after, a little semi-pro. I just dabbled in that for a short span of time, exhibition team, and then I moved out here to Arizona. A lot of people from Arizona, or a lot of people that went to Iowa, moved out here to Arizona. I thought it sounded great, and I came out here, and I was working out, trying to do two-a-days. I was running with a lot of the big names back then, and I ended up getting a high ankle sprain right before I had planned to do a tryout for the Phoenix Mercury. So then life went on, of course. I had to go ahead and pay for life expenses, and I got into the mortgage business. Was in the mortgage business for a few years. When the big mortgage crisis happened, I was in that, as far as my line of work. And then I started my own financial services company doing loan mods for people. And shortly thereafter, I got into the food industry. My oldest daughter's dad has prominent, his family has prominent Southern style restaurants out here in Arizona. Lolo's Chicken and Waffles, Miss White's Golden Rule Cafe. He had tried a few restaurants, and then we were watching the Great Food Truck Race on TV, and I was like, hey, we should get a food truck. So you take the food truck to the location instead of, investing in a huge amount into a location as, someone who didn't have a lot to, and hoping that it would work. So then that did turn out real nice for us to take the food truck to the location and do that. So I've been in the food truck business ever since then. I coached basketball at Bourgade Catholic High School as an assistant, or excuse me, as an assistant coach of the JV program in the 2012 year. And then my family moved out to the Eastmark area in East Mesa by Arizona Athletic Grounds. And in 2023, I applied to be one of the assistant coaches in the program. So 2023-24 season, 2024-25 season, and I was an assistant coach. And then 2025-26, I am the head coach at Eastmark. Coach Robert Jackson was an amazing coach for Eastmark as the head coach. I watched him with a lot that he did with the girls. We were last year under his coaching as head coach. We were the state runner-ups. So, he's taken this team really far, really turned the program around. For the 2 years under him, the team was 10-0 in regions. We never dropped a game. And, I followed the process of him as well as the coaching that I learned from Lisa Bluter and Jan Jensen at Iowa. And, just instilled hard work ethic in the girls and expectations. And same thing this season. This 3-time region champions, our program has never lost a game in 3 years in our region. So that feels really good. So we have state coming upon us. We do have our work cut out for us, definitely.
I love it. I love it. I think this is a great segue to pause. I'm going to grab myself a drink. Feel free to do the same
Sure.
too, Coach. I want to go back to two things. But first, your comment about Lisa Bluter. So correct me if I'm wrong, that she's the same coach that Coach Caitlin Clark as well. Big Ten has, this is not a part of my questions, but I feel like I have to ask.
Yeah.
Describe what it was like as a female student athlete competing in the Big Ten.
Right. Okay, so the Big Ten is everything. So let me just back up a little bit. I was being recruited out of Alaska. Out of Alaska, it's hard to get exposure and get seen and get recruited. So there was pretty much an A team and a B team for club basketball out of Alaska. And I was on the A team my junior year. And when Alaska comes out, all the college coaches want to see, okay, we'd like to see the talent from Alaska. So after I did that, after my junior year, that summer of going out, we went on a circuit of with the AAU team in Washington, Oregon, Arizona, and Texas, and played in various tournaments. I just went my hardest, and to be honest with you, I didn't have all of the talent, all of the moves, all of that, but coaches, it was back in the day when you get the handwritten letters from coaches. They were telling me that they saw athleticism in me, 6'2". I was about 170 pounds, really strong, like I said. And so, I was getting the letters from the coaches. And my dad played football at Michigan State. My parents went there. And it was a situation where I wanted to, knowing that I was going to be far away from home as a kid, I wanted to be somewhere that, for one, I had a choice to make. If I was going to play on a big stage, be a small fish in a big pond, or a little fish in a big pond, because I was being recruited, like I was telling you, I made sure my grades were up and stuff. I was being recruited by Rice University. I went to Fordham, of course, UNLV. I wanted to be somewhere where I was on a big stage and something that was familiar. So being that I'm from Alaska, we didn't get out much. I'm the second of 7 kids. We didn't get down to the States often. And my mom and dad, they met at Michigan State. My mom is from Detroit, Michigan. So all of her family is predominantly in Michigan, and then she had a brother in Ohio. And then my dad, he is the 11th of 12 kids. and most of them were spread out all throughout. We had Indiana, Ohio, um, Illinois, um, Minnesota. So I knew that wherever I went in the Big Ten, playing ball, I was gonna have a family member giving hugs, and I didn't come from a lot of money, so they were also slipping me a little money here and there. It was kind of like in place of my parents being there, nice little care packages. They would meet me at the games and all that, and so that was something that I considered, and that's what it was. And I didn't want to be at my peak coming out of high school as big dog. I wanted to grow my game. And at Iowa, I saw that. And it's so crazy because at Iowa, I talk to people still till this day and they say, man, it's tough to play at Iowa on a home game because the fans, they are super supportive. I explain to people, it was always sellout crowds. Like, I'm accustomed to playing in front of 30, 40,000 people. And out here in Arizona, when there's pro teams to follow, the college teams, especially women's sports, may not get that so much. But at Iowa, there's no pro teams to follow in Iowa, so you are the pros. I had my first reality check my freshman year when my roommate and I, Jerica Watson from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who ended up going to the WNBA, she and I just went grocery shopping on a simple run, kind of like you run a Safeway out here. And I don't know, we were just kind of having a candid conversation. And then I realized I saw, like, how you feel someone looking at you? I felt a little girl and her mom like looking at me in admiration as if they saw someone famous. And then the mom brings out a pencil and paper and the little girl asks for my autograph. And I was like, wow,
Remembered you.
this is it. Like, they know who you are. Like,
Right.
like we're the stars out there. That felt good at Iowa. After every Iowa game, it was just a culture and tradition. It's expected to sign autographs for whomever wants your autograph after a game, win or loss. We're up on that concourse signing autographs for the girls. They give out Iowa. The program is amazing, gives out posters to everyone. And sometimes we're signing autographs for an hour after the game, signing autographs for the girls, taking pictures with the fans and showing our appreciation for everything that they do to support us. So that was something that was crazy as a culture. And I remember my freshman year, there were 8 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and 1 senior. Angie Lee was rebuilding the program for us. And like I'm saying, it was so crazy because we pulled into practice. We came into practice one day, of course, in Carver Hawkeye Arena. And she's like, all right, we're going to get practice started. And then all of a sudden this music and the horns just comes on crazy loud. And we're like, what's going on? What's coach doing? And then she started yelling and she's like, this is what it's going to be like when you're playing in the game. You're not going to hear anything but the fans. So run the plays. You got to know the signals of the plays. And then,
Yeah.
so I'm like, that kind of stuff is fun.
Yeah.
But
I thank you
yeah,
for actually allowing us to witness what that coach is. And at that time, was it
it was Angie Lee.
Angie Lee? Okay. So when you describe the Big Ten and your comments about how you decided, because you visited a few different colleges, right?
Yes.
And you landed on Iowa. I love the story of, I had family from my dad being, 11 of 12 kids and your mother, and like how you strategically planned your journey to Iowa, Des Moines, right?
Iowa City.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about
No worries.
that. Wow. And I'm from the Midwest, Iowa City. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, correct me. And you intentionally did that because you had family and friends and the whole care package thing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then I kind of tie that back to close the loop on the fact that you went there, not me. Win or loss, you're signing autographs.
Oh, yes.
You are not just you, but your team. You were the professionals in Iowa City because there's no sports team. And I think that's so important because it really sets the stage for what we're going to talk about today. I have to go back to when you were growing up in Alaska, you hinted on this, but what did sports look like there? As a female, as a female of color. I mean, number one, I just can't even imagine it. And number two, like, how did you gain separation in Alaska? I walk us through that because that's going to really set the stage for like the path forward, and we'll start to get into what that looks
right. Sports in Alaska back when I played. So I went to I went to Service High School, which is a suburban school up on the hill. And athletics were pretty green. It really was. To be honest with you, I didn't know how to do a layup until my freshman year in high school. Um, but my dad, being that he's a beast at athletics, he played football at Michigan State. He always pushed me to go hard. So my freshman year, I learned how to do a layup. I was on the 7th grade, 8th grade basketball team, but it was a cattle call, about 30 girls on the team. Everyone's just kind of out there. It is what it is. But my freshman year, my dad really pushed me to lock in. If this is a sport that I want to be good at, and he's like, you can do it. So, I learned how to do a layup. I pushed myself. We had a basketball hoop outside my house, and by the time of my sophomore year, I wouldn't come in for dinner. And mind you, in Alaska, it's cold. I wouldn't come in for dinner until I touched the rim 10 times. So like I would push myself. So I'd be a beast on the rebounds. I was always wanting to average a double double. My mom always says food would be the death of me, but my dad would always encourage me with because we didn't get to eat out. There wasn't a lot of money for that when I was a kid. He would encourage me with a meal from a restaurant that's equivalent to Panda Express. If I get a double double, so that means crashing the boards hard, all of that. So I wanted to work real hard to get that meal. Like I can count on one hand the amount of times my family ever went out to eat when I was a kid. We didn't have extras like that. But extras went towards our sports endeavors. I'm the second of seven. I played D1 at Iowa. My older brother was a walk-on at Michigan State, played football there. My brother just under me, he played basketball as a first team All-American at the University of Alaska Anchorage, which is D2. He would come out and visit me in the summers at Iowa, and Steve offered my brother, after seeing him playing in the summer leagues, offered my brother, he didn't have any scholarships available, walk on, I can get you the next year. But my brother decided to stay home with the family. And then I've got my sister, one of my sisters, she played softball at North Carolina A&T for 4 years, and then her 5th year she walked onto the basketball team. My sister Sylvia played basketball at the University of Miami. We're about the same height. I'm an inch taller than her, and she tries to tippy-toe for pictures, but don't be fooled. I'm the tallest girl in our family, and so she played basketball at University of Miami and took the U far with that. And she ended up playing her 5th year of volleyball at KU. Our family has been pretty much a legend in Alaska. Everybody knows from the 90s to the early 2000s the Bullock family. Because in sports, we were always, like my sister, Gatorade Player of the Year, those types of things. Like everyone knew who my family was with sports. My mom and dad were amazing. My mom did work as well as my dad. They both are still alive, Clarence and Roxanne Bullock. If it wasn't for them and God, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunities that I did have as a kid. My mom was always carting us around to sports. And being in Alaska, it's like, since it's so secluded, when I was a kid, a lot of programs were out there to help kids see the world. Like, myself and my siblings, like I've been all over the world when I was a kid. With my Spanish club when I was in middle school, we went to France and Spain. When I was in high school, my mom said if I took Latin class, I could go to Italy with the Latin club. So of course, fundraising and stuff was a thing too, to be able to afford all these things back in the day. So I went to Italy with that. When I was 8 years old, I went to Russia with my baton twirling corps. I was in the Anchorage Children's Choir. I went to England and competed in the Eisteddfod Music Festival there. All over. And that same with my brothers and sisters. They have similar stories of traveling the world and seeing what's out there. But like I said, my parents afforded that, and it was a full-time job for my mom getting us to all of those things. Any parents out there who have more than one kid in sports know that it is a full-time job. Peanut butter sandwiches in the car, like we were fighting over the spare peanut butter sandwich. Back in the day, my mom would bring an extra peanut butter sandwich, and it was before nutritious stuff was cool. Like kids would laugh at us because we would have that bread that had what they would say like bird seed on it. But it's a thing now, and people would always wonder, oh wow, they make fun of it. People don't know about that Adams old fashioned crunchy peanut butter where you stir it because there's the oil settled on the top. Like my mom and dad always had us super nutritious. My mom was a horticulture major, so at Michigan State, so she knew about the nutrition of things. Which fruits were in season. Every day it's understood. Like my lunches as a kid were always something nutritious from home.
She was a horticulture major,
Mm-hmm.
and your mom's is Roxanne?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So did she, was that her field post college or did she get into something else?
She went into that field
Okay.
for a little while,
That's
and
awesome.
then the
Yeah.
upwarding thing, and then basically it turned into her coming out of her field of major to working a job where she could be more hands on with the kids, like
That's a
with school
full-time job.
stuff, right?
Right.
So she became the crossing guard at our elementary school, so she could see us, and
Yeah.
with preschool or kids at a half day, all that, and then
Yeah.
being able to cart everybody around to sports and stuff.
Okay. So I appreciate the color there. There's so many different rabbit holes we can go down, but in the essence of time, I am going to get back to a few things that you talked about there, in terms of limited eating out, the family lineage of sports, and how academic life and sports allowed you to travel. I'll get back to some of those. But in terms of the path forward after you were you figured out at a very young age that you have this just blessed talent, athletic gift as a student athlete, and your sisters, your siblings, your mom and dad, everyone was just athletically talented, academically as well. So in today's day and age, Coach B, there's the student that has what you described is a very, very, and correct me if I'm wrong, but growing up in Alaska, you were culturally immersed into academics, opportunities beyond sports, like you said, to travel, but also the sports was a vehicle for you to prosper in other ways. You didn't have the, eating out twice a week because funds were limited. So your father Clarence
Yes.
would encourage you to get that double double so you can go and, to your point, to your words, go eat at a Panda Express equivalent, because that was kind of, a reward, a carrot. You had to compete for everything academically and athletically. So
We'd even have to fight over the third piece of chicken at the house. Me and my brothers.
chicken,
That wasn't much.
peanut butter,
Yeah.
all these things. And now I want you to think about how this path has changed, because you have NIL, you have, athletes growing at a higher clip, getting stronger at a higher clip. Some would argue, is it performance enhancement? Others would argue HGH. Others would argue they're just eating more. It's in the foods, or maybe it's a protein hype. But let's take it down to JUCO. Is JUCO a realistic route for someone other than yourself who has I would say average talent, not highly talented, maybe not ranked in the top 5%, maybe it has not earned a 4.0 or better. Is the JUCO path still relevant in your opinion?
The JUCO path is it's more like the natural course these days.
Okay.
Because I have a daughter who, of course, being raised in my family here with my brothers and sisters around and kind of knowing everybody's stories, she's always had her mind since she's been, in middle school on wanting to play Division I. And I'm trying to explain to her that the course is a little bit different, and it is the kind of more along the natural course to go JUCO and develop into that beast for college at the D1 level and be a complete package. Where someone like myself, where if I was to be honest with you, if we were to wind the clock back to 1998, I would have been a JUCO player. I would not have been D1. I was first team All-State in basketball, but I didn't have the skills. I had raw talent. I was strong and all that, but I didn't have the post moves. None of that was taught. It's just a different course of action these days. But on the flip to coin as well, a lot of the tournaments that I played in high school, all of the tournaments in Alaska, I would be on the medal stand or MVP of the tournament, and on the boy side of the tournament, Carlos Boozer would be on the medal stand as the boy, and then we shake hands, the MVP male and MVP female of the tournament, him and I. So, just to kind of put you as far as the likes of things. However, if I was being very fair and very honest with my skill level of where I was at, like the things that I'm teaching these girls on my high school program, that's not what it was like when I was in high school at all. The post moves being taught, the breakdown of guard post breakdown. Oh, never that. That wasn't a thing when I was in high school. It was just kind of just go out there and go hard and keep going harder. No particular skill set. No, hey, there's basketball class that you're required to take, and in that they're working on your explosion, your vertical, all of that. None of that happened. There is no preseason with strength and conditioning, and basketball technique. There was none of that. None of that for not just my school, but for the other schools that I know of as well in Anchorage. That wasn't happening. It wasn't a thing.
So, Coach, why do you think that it has really evolved into before the season, we need to do A, B, C, and D in order to get to E and F? Like, look, as you said, like you in 98 and prior, it was you did what you needed to do in the off season, whether that was travel, whether that was focus on your academics. But nowadays, it's completely different. So, what do you feel like is the root cause of that, from your opinion?
Well, everyone's leveling up because you've got players such like myself where you've gone through the ranks and then you've seen it and then you come back and you want your kids to be better and you teach that. Like when I first arrived at Eastmark and I saw the itinerary for practice, I was like, oh, okay. Oh, this is run like college practice now. This isn't like back when I was in high school. It's a full agenda of things to get covered so that time is most maximized to the best. And that wasn't a thing before.
How does the parents' perspective impact, this shift of leveling up? Because I feel like, there has to be some sort of a level of understanding. And sometimes, to be quite frank, there's a misunderstanding when it comes to the expectations that the parents have of their kids, but also of the coaches that really support the kids. So what could you say about that?
That gets tough sometimes because, speaking on behalf of my program that I coach, sometimes parents want for the kids what they don't really want for themselves. Like, I've got a parent telling me my daughter wants to play college basketball, but then I'm looking and I'm like, that girl skips the preseason workouts and her mom doesn't even know, but I'm not going to throw her under the bus. Parents might want it for the kids to live out their dreams vicariously. And then you've got other players who they may want it and they may not have the know-how, but I'm like, just meet me halfway. And those are the kids that I love to lock in on, and I go hard on them. I talk to you with a different approach because I know that this is what you want.
So you talked about raw talent and skill. And back in 98, when you were on that MVP stand podium and to your right or left was Carlos Boozer, you felt like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were on that stand because you have raw talent, right? Versus when you started to like really understand what skill looked like, because to your point, you weren't maybe fundamentally skilled, but you just had that raw talent. Now, you just mentioned two scenarios where we're not, sharing names, but there is an athlete that, the parent of this athlete in particular wants her child to go to the WNBA or wants her child to go to Division I or get an athletic scholarship to play basketball, correct? But to your point, little does that parent know that that athlete missed preseason workouts, OTAs, and what have you, versus the other example where you have an athlete that may not have that skill set or may not have that raw talent, but has that want to. And how important is it to really, as coaches and parents, meet that kid where they're at when it comes to the want to? Can you talk more about that?
Oh, yes, you definitely have to. And I hate to say this, but I feel it's almost like the way things are in this day and age and culture and the way parents are, you kind of got to protect yourself. And to do that, a friend of mine who is a coach, Anthony Belcher, he coaches as well. He told me, film practice, B. So I film practice and it uploads to Huddle. And if any parents have any questions, go watch Huddle so you can understand and see what I'm seeing in practice, and that's good.
Audio matches the video.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
That pretty much neutralizes all the confusion, right? So what has that done for you? So you mentioned your fellow colleague that suggested that idea of filming. So now you film. So what was the end result of that? Or is that still yet to be
That
determined?
silences things, but
Yeah.
it's super funny because, depending on the day and this day and age, I might not have a manager present at practice, or which is, one of the girls who's out with injury for the season. So there'll be a certain level. It's crazy because some girls want it more than others on intensity and effort. And once the camera goes on, the effort picks up with the team. I'm like, oh,
They know
so
they're being watched.
yes, exactly. So,
Yeah.
a lot of those things silence the parents about what the coach is doing and why isn't my daughter starting, or why isn't my daughter getting more playing time, or, hey, coach, you should do this. People want to say you should run these plays and I have a suggestion. Why don't you do that? I didn't ask for all that,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think that there's a byproduct from filming to, that you mentioned a few, the effort level goes up. But I think as just educators and parents, you get to kind of see the other side. It is not a direct A plus B equals C or 1 plus 1 equals 2. You're dealing with personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be honest. I mean,
Right.
some might act and feel and want to be a grown adult,
Right.
but at the end of the day, you're dealing with adolescents.
Right.
So there's a whole level of nuance here. What would you like to talk about there?
Oh yeah. It's definitely, like even yesterday at practice, we have one of our coaches. He's an older gentleman, and I got to him yesterday. I said, "Hey, we have state coming up. These girls have to level up. I need you to let them know from a male voice, and that makes a difference too.
Yeah.
Talking about things, I need them to know from a male voice that we have to level up if we want to get where we say we want to be at the end of the season." And he got after them, and then after we finished the drill at water break, I noticed that two of my girls that have shimmied off to the bathroom to use the bathroom, but it's been a little extended for the break. So then I discreetly go ahead and get the team started on the next drill, and I come to the bathroom, and I was like, "Hey girls, what's going on?" And then one of the girls wants to just tell her mind about how she didn't appreciate that he got on her, and I'm like, see, that's what it is. People don't understand. There's expectation,
Yeah.
and with all due respect, I'm accustomed to the way that he did that, but a lot of the people these days, the way that parent and kids have a huge voice with stuff more. Um, you got to handle some people with kid gloves, and this one player, like I have seen, she's more gentle natured. I do get more performance out of her than would have been gotten out of her when you get on them. So some kids you can get on them, and other kids you cannot. And I'm aware of that. So, I got with the coach. I was like, hey, let me handle her. I got it. But as for this girl, her dad has told me, do whatever you need to do to get her to perform,
Yeah.
get on her, so some kids, you have to just know each of your players and what that looks like.
Absolutely. No, that's great that you mentioned, and it sounds like at the end of the day, you're meeting the athlete where they are, which is important. In terms of philosophy, your philosophy and some of the pressure points, what are, when you are coaching today and in today's society, what are some adjustments? You mentioned one about being focused on teaching skill set, but what are some other adjustments that you have to make based on when you came up in the system in the 98 to what is happening today? Um, you talked about like it be like the high school program being more like a collegiate program, but when I talk about adjustments, I mean like mental toughness, like mental health, like dietary, having a balance in diet, working out, social media. Hey, when to shut down the romantic relationship, or there's a lot of different
Right.
things that are happening.
Right.
So, like, how are those adjustments being made as the head coach?
Right.
And talk about that.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot. So, I'm lucky to have an assistant coach and then a JV coach who's like my assistant coach as well. And we all know each of the players. And like, so when we get into a game, I'm like, I look at the game starts and I see certain player missing the shots. I'm like, her girlfriend's here. So coach, I need you to talk to her parents and tell her don't let the girlfriend come.
Mm.
That type of thing. And then there's another player, and I'm like, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Because she's all curled over. And I'm like, hey, what's wrong? And she's like, I'm just tired. And this is the girl who I see sitting at the end of the JV game bench eating
With the
Chick-fil-A and in the Sour Patch.
right.
And I'm just like, wait a minute here. I'm first year head coach, but I'm going to have to get a little tighter grip on expectations,
Right.
with things. And, so this being the first year head coach, I'm learning a lot from this is what it is for next year,
Yeah.
type of thing. Because I've inherited a program, but my expectations and settling into things will definitely be a bit more sound come next year. Promise you that. So,
There's so many different nuances there, from the fast food in the on the bench to the distractions with the boyfriend or whomever in the stands, and there's a lot of other stuff. But at the end of the day, this is about talking about the stories and being real uncomfortable. I want to shift over to the parent and coach dynamic. And as a coach, as a parent, as someone who played college sports, I have seen it all, but I can only imagine what you see through your lens. But you talked about it earlier in a sense. You mentioned videotaping your practices. I think that kind of, to your point, creates a level of alignment, and then silences some of the questions or concerns. But you also said that, or maybe you didn't say this, and I assumed you did, but parents uh, could be one of the hardest aspects of coaching. And, can you break that down and talk to us about why parents can really make it difficult for coaches, and specifically maybe your coaching journey? What can you share there?
right. So this day and age, the girls on the team, it's important to build a team culture, friendships, trust with each other. But it's super tough when, I'm having a talk at a timeout, and then I see a girl's eyes glance up into the stands of their parents, and then I look back and I see the parents trying to tell them something different that they need to do. Parents need to sit back and be parents and supportive of the program and what's going on,
Mm.
and not try to coach the program, because I
From
was hired as the coach for a reason.
right.
And to my understanding, you didn't apply for the job, and if that's the case, you surely didn't get it. So you need to go ahead and sit back seat and let us do what we're doing as a
Right.
program. It kind of tears girls apart a little bit too when parents jump in and talk about other players, and then word gets around about those types of things.
That happens.
Yeah, it does.
Mm.
And then I've got one girl who never stands or never picks this girl's partners because she knows that this girl's been talking about her, and through parents.
That's so unfair and,
Yeah.
and not kind. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. It's gone to the point where it's hard. It's very hard as a coach. I watch a lot of stuff on social media, what coaches say, what statistics are about how coaches are treated. I experienced that firsthand. At the beginning of the season with the athletics administration and inside at the parent meeting at the beginning of the season, it was rolled out that there's a 24-hour rule. That's for a reason, for you to cool off and get yourself together as a parent. A lot of times people want to tell you how to do your job, tell you what you're not doing, doubt the program if there's a loss, and then really just kind of embarrass themselves and their child with their behavior. And it starts with the parents. Kids' behavior, your parents acting funny, so then the player is going to act funny. And that limits the program as to the success of what we can do.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think again, there's so many layers there. And I'm just looking through some of my examples that you wrote down. I want to go back to the situation you mentioned about a parent feeling like they are compelled to talk good or bad or indifferent about another player, and how that affects the player not wanting to partner up with the player on the team. As a coach, you see, you hear, you observe, and you have a staff. They do the same. how difficult is it to see that the effect of what has happened on that relationship, and how do you like prevent that, or I don't even know if that's the right word, because I don't know if we can prevent that, because we're talking about adults here,
Right.
right? But
And the damage is done.
right, the damage is done.
It gets hurt. It gets hard, and that's where, with my staff, we talk about those things, and we don't want to make an elephant in the room type of situation. But we're like, so then we have one of the coaches kind of just do damage control and love on that other kid
Yeah,
who knows that stuff's been said about them, and lift them up more,
yeah,
and give them their confidence. And I do know as a player, in the past, when the coach gives you props, that feels good.
yeah.
So we acknowledge that player, let them know that we see them, good job, keep up the good work,
Mm.
type of thing. So
If parents are listening or will listen to this podcast, you right now it feels defensive about anything that we just have talked about, what would you want them to hear from or take away from our discussion today if they're listening?
I want them to encourage their kid to do their very best, give their best effort, always be respectful of the coach, and that they need to lead by example of being respectful to the coach as well. Because it makes it very tough to want to give your all if you have a parent that's being completely disrespectful. Like parents, the way that you talk to the coach, would you talk to your boss at work like that?
Mm,
Would you talk to your equal like that? And just because we're the coach doesn't mean that we have to take that.
mm,
But unfortunately, we do sulk it in, but we got to bite the tongue for the
absolutely.
good of the team.
Sure. Sure. No, no, no. I think that that's such a powerful message. Thank you for doing that and looking into the camera. Uh, some of you guys, well, none of you guys will know this, but Coach B and I took some pictures at the very beginning of our of our morning together, and I like to mix it up, and she was like all about it. And one of the first pictures we took, y'all, she had this look on her face like she was gonna suplex me. And Brandon, our videographer, looked at it, I think, and she looked at it and she's like, yeah, I need to smile more. But that look that you just gave the camera to the parents, that was that look of, hey, I mean business.
Yeah.
Hey, and I'm gonna give you respect, you give me
Hmm.
respect. And I think that that's such a powerful message. And I would double down or double click, whatever the right word is right now, to that message, because I do feel like as a coach, as a parent, there are times that I've been in the wrong, and I will gladly admit that. However, I feel like more times than not, your message resonates with me, because there is a time and a place, and you have to know your lane and your responsibility as parents. And I'm guilty of it as a parent. I have two athletes in my family, but that parent in the stands, looking at my child, trying to align with him to say no or whatever when he's being coached. So I totally understand what you're saying, and I can empathize with that parent, but I know that that's not what I should be doing.
Mm.
Like, I absolutely know that's not what I should be doing, because my child should be taking direction from his or her coach, right? So I absolutely agree. I would be remiss if I didn't thank our sponsors. Clean Plate Labs, full service digital media company, is one of our sponsors for the podcast today, and also Jelly Feet reusable foot covers. Okay, so now we're going to segue into nutrition, preparation, and just the truth around it. Again, we set the stage today, and we talked about your background playing sports in Alaska, the limited the limited amount of funds to eat out, and just have the fun or access to different cuisines. But we also shed light on the fact that as you grew older, being that both your parents were educated, your mom specifically, Roxanne, she studied horticulture. So a lot of your lunches were very healthy, uh, because she had that background. And then kind of fast forwarding uh, at least 2 decades, right? Maybe more. Your family, you mentioned earlier, your family has been very deep in the food industry and the ideation of, I believe you said Lola's?
Lolo's Chicken and
Yeah,
Waffles.
Lolo
Like,
chicken and waffles, and spices, and there was this idea of creating a mobile business around food, and so the concept of that. But I'm laying this all out because that is kind of like the origin or the genesis of like how food is very important, obviously to everyone, student athletes alike. But then now when you look at nutrition and you look at why it is such a critical aspect of someone's success. And when you look at an athlete, why does it bother you so much to see what you see that's out there about nutrition and some of the choices that these student athletes are making?
right. Because, like they say, you are what you eat. Your body is your fuel. I have a 15-year-old daughter who's a sophomore, wants to play Division I volleyball, and she's been locked in since her 8th grade year. As far as nutrition, extra, people always tell her how lean she is. She looks great. She's super fit. Super athletic. Girls always ask her if she lifts weights. Like, she's very strong looking. Like, I very rarely see girls who are as fit as my daughter, but she's an athlete year round. She's on the basketball team, varsity basketball team in Eastmark, starting varsity volleyball her freshman year. She ran track, and now she's doing, a couple years ago, and now she's doing sand volleyball as well. So she stays fit year round. I tell her, all the time about nutrition. Like, when we go to the grocery store, I explain to her those little things, like the outside aisles is what you need to pick from, and then the inside aisles is all the junk. When she asked me before, can I have ramen? It's almost like, are you kidding me? Like, where's the nutritional value in that? And I've explained to her certain things because there's certain athletes, here in her day and age that are a year, 2, 3 years older than her that she knows are going top D1. And I tell her, do you see what she packs for lunch versus the other girls? You have to set yourself aside if that's really what you want. And she knows, and she does. Like, she takes her little system, and it's generally leftovers from dinner. It's not fast food type thing. And she's like, Mom, everybody's always eyeing my lunch. She has, I tell her, you want to have at least a fistful of protein. That's about how much protein that you should have, so she always will put together, she'll have her meat here, not processed meat. It will be something fresh cooked, like grilled chicken. And then she'll have like quinoa. She'll have, like eggplant, squash, avocado over it, some sesame seeds, and some avocado oil, something like that. Those are the types of things that she eats, and that fuels her body, because and not only that, but she knows she has to start the day off with a breakfast, something nutritious. So that looks like today she went to the airport to go, she flew out to play in a national qualifying volleyball tournament, Triple Crown, and at 4 a.m, she had breakfast before she went. She had a double pack of oatmeal, so, and an apple, so that she'd have fuel while she's resting on the plane, because she knows that she plays tomorrow, and what you eat 2 days before is what's going to hit your body then. She likes to have her carbs with her pasta, spaghetti the night before to give her the fuel for the game, and then she knows to make sure to have her 3 meals and snacks a day. That's just understood, that you take care of your body, and also hydration with water, especially being out here in the desert. She has a big half-gallon thing of water. That's a must. It's non-negotiable to be drank. She doesn't have a problem doing that, because she knows that's what her body needs. One time she cheated on her body, and she didn't eat anything for lunch. And she, right before basketball practice, mind you, I'm the coach. And so at basketball practice, although I'm coach, right before practice, she said, Mom, I'm so tired. And then I said, what did you have for lunch? And she said, yeah, I know. And I was like, well, what did you expect? You don't have gas, any fuel, if you don't fuel your body.
Yeah.
So, those are the types of things, and she's still young and learning. And, sometimes, of course, as mom, she will tell me she didn't have time to pack her lunch because she's in all AP and honors classes. And, she stayed up late till midnight, because if we got back from a basketball game, that we got back at 11 at night, she's up till 1 a.m, and I'm knowing that she has to get up by 5:50 to get to school in time. Then I'll make her lunch for her, or I'll bring lunch to her. But again, it's something nutritious. It's not mom running her canes. It's bringing her a nutritious meal, and it'll be hot, right at lunchtime, and she'll be happy with that, because we don't live far from the school. But nutrition is everything.
I admire the description and the breakdown. You have so much detail and dedication to that. For those that are listening, how in I could only imagine how challenging it would be to really start or where to start. So, for those that are listening, where do you think, because assuming that they don't have this background or foundation, foundation is a better word, because you have the foundation, you have that roadmap, the mentality is set, and obviously your daughter has a tremendous discipline. For those that are listening, if they can change one thing about their dietary plan, I think I know what you're going to say, but what would that one thing be that would be most impactful for those that don't have such a dedicated regimen, but they want to go to D1?
Right. It's really sad when I talk to my team and I tell them honest answers. I say, raise your hand if you ate lunch today. Do you know how many hands go up? My daughter's hand, and maybe one or possibly two other. You got to eat lunch. You have to eat breakfast. You have to.
Mm. So do you think that that's a choice not to eat, or do you think it's an access?
No, I think it's a choice because, speaking on behalf of the demographic where I live, it's not a socioeconomic, I can't afford it type of thing. I'm not a teacher at the school. However, as the new coach, I had tough I had a tough commitment to the program that I had to work on. When I took on the program after the head coach left, there were 8 girls in our high school program. I didn't say varsity. The entire high school program had 8 girls when I was hired on May 1st. I had to be up with the school telling girls, basically a cattle call. If you want to play basketball, I can show you. I played under Lisa Bluter, Caitlin Clark's coach. I have good skill and background leadership, as a team captain in high school. And I've been an assistant coach for the past 2 years. If you don't know how to play basketball, no worries. If you have the desire, I'll teach you. So I grew up from 8 girls to 30 girls comes first day of tryouts.
I love it.
To build it back to a Frost JV and varsity program, and still carried on the reign as one of the premier programs in the East Valley. And to that, it's important that girls or all athletes want to commit to themselves. So I was up at the school all the time to do this. Although I wasn't a teacher, I would pop through at lunchtime, handing out flyers, soliciting the girls basketball program. And when I was there, I would see the players, and it's like a fad. It's a trend to not eat, kind of like the courting situation is going on, and you don't look cool if you're eating, even my daughter, like I said, I've observed, I don't know if this might embarrass her, but there's an athlete table where all the athletes sit out at lunchtime. And even at the athlete table, they're just talking and hanging out. They're not working on homework. One of them might grab an order of fries from the cafeteria and they might split it. But not a lot of eating is going on of nutritious things.
Because that could be that the scene of grazing might be be perceived as not attractive,
right?
Whatever the case may be. No, I think that's interesting, and you talked about the recruiting and having to pull up the bootstraps and have to really just sell your background to get kids interested, growing it from a program of total 8 to now having a Frost all the way to the varsity program. Throughout that process, what did you learn about having to really reconnect with that student body that you didn't know coming into the role itself?
It's crazy because I wanted kids to know that you do have a chance. I let them know that I didn't know how to do a layup until my freshman year. I had to be relatable to them, like they see the finished accolade, but I was in their shoes. I was mostly soliciting hard for freshmen and sophomores where they have some time to grow.
Yeah. So everyone has a chance. Yeah.
But it's crazy, too, the way things have changed in the culture of things these days. They say that women's basketball, girls' basketball in high school, the popularity is down. It's dropping by 3%. Volleyball's picking up, basketball is dropping down.
Why do you
But
think that is? Do you have an opinion?
I don't quite know.
Okay.
But I know that they have more fans at the stands and all that too, the girls volleyball in high school. I'm not quite sure.
It's a great segue into identity, careers, and pressure. I think the broader perspective beyond sports, is the pressure. And I feel like we kind of scratched the surface on eating or not eating, and because there's maybe some pressure there. But in terms of pressure, for kids to have like a career path early, whether it's, working out and overtraining because you want to be a D1 athlete, uh, are there dangers or risk with overtraining, over indexing into camps? Uh, you mentioned, different tournaments nationwide. You had one example. You talked about the Washington, the Texas, and the Oregon, all these different things. And then you layer on social media, you layer on, the athletes that sit at the table that just talk about different things. What are the dangers of maybe just doing too much to get ready for D1?
Right. Yeah, I have to, because my daughter sometimes gets caught in that zone and I have to
Okay.
tell her she's got to dial it back. Sometimes I have to, and parents can all relate to this. Sometimes I have to confiscate her phone so she can just dial out because it can easily become an addiction. And us adults know that as well.
I love it.
So sometimes I just have to have her dial out and we'll just do family time for the day just to slow your mind down.
See, for my kids listening, I think that that's such a powerful comment. Dial out. I mean, I call it off the grid. You just unplug for the day, for the weekend. I absolutely, absolutely agree with that. I really feel like sports when you were coming up and when we were coming up, it looks so different. And I think that one of the biggest uh distractions that kind of play along with perspective, identity, career is social media.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how has social media impacted, good or bad or indifferent, as your first season in being the head coach at Eastmark? I- what can you tell us about social media and how it's impacted you?
Well, I don't know if I maybe am speaking, maybe not as, I guess, just from my perspective.
Mhm.
I feel that social media has taken the place of TV because I remember when I was a kid on TV, on the news, there would be, there would be the regular, the segments, whatever it was, and then there'd be the sports section, and then they do the highlights of what schools did what and a quick clip from that. But nobody really watches TV anymore. I don't know if that sounds ignorant of me,
No, I
but
agree.
but social media is it. You got to market yourself with that as well. Like, like I tell my daughter, she has a sports profile. I let people know. My brother who plays at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, he has a page. I reminded him, coaches see everything. So if you're out there, if you have trap, like I told my daughter, even, suburbia is where she's been raised. If you have trap house music on your page, people are gonna make judgments.
Mm.
You know, inappropriate dancing, people will make judgments. So you need to be very mindful of, my daughter doesn't do that, but you need to be mindful of how you present yourself to the world.
Perception.
Right. Um, and colleges are looking to see what sort of versatility you have with your sport, not that you just only play volleyball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Show that you can have a fun time with friends too, that you're a human being,
Mm.
things like that. So, those are the talks that I have with my oldest daughter personally on that. Because it's a lot of pressure on the kids these days to market yourself, because I'm like, when I try to put together social media reels, when I try to put together Instagram posts for my basketball team, I'm like, dude, this took me an hour. I gotta, this is part of like an hour just to put together something kind of decent, like it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it is. It is. When you mentioned your oldest daughter, and I think that it really kind of allows our audience to understand that it's not so much the quantity of conversations as it is the quality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think a lot of times as parents, coaches, educators, what have you, we get overwhelmed by, hey, we got to do more, 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 as opposed to, I think we got to have quality conversations. And I really love the fact that you're having these quality conversations with your oldest daughter. Now, is she the one that just flew out this morning for the
Yes.
volleyball tournament? Okay.
Yes.
And remind me the tournament, there was an acronym you used.
Oh, she's at Triple Crown.
Triple Crown.
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah, most of the college
Yeah.
coaches in the nation will be
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Volleyball, and listen, y'all, I don't have any facts to behind what I'm about to say, so please take it for whatever it's worth. But I do feel like volleyball coach the sport has really emerged as like a must-see, like, hey, this is a cool sport to
Yeah.
watch. And it's trending
Oh yeah, big time. Volleyball's
that
going up.
thing
Yeah.
higher
Than basketball.
than
Yeah.
basketball.
Absolutely.
We would play, my son's club team would play at AAG,
Mm-hmm.
and we've played there for a few years, not recently because they don't have a league yet. But Mark, if you're listening or watching, please set up a league at AAG. He's the new athletic director there. But Mo is actually what he goes by, but Mo actually. But when we would go play at AAG, there would be volleyball
Galore.
galore.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Oh yeah.
And then like you'd have like one or two basketball games going on, and volleyball just
Yeah.
encased
Every
like
weekend.
entire. And like I'd be practicing there. We'd be practicing there during the week. We'd have volleyballs coming in and out. And like what was this humorous? But
Yeah.
like I'm saying, it took over the
Yeah.
and they had their own dedicated like arena, but this was overflow. This is over.
That's how it is. That's
Yeah,
how it is.
that's how it is. All right. So again, I'm just giving volleyball a lot of love. I don't have any data to prove otherwise. But
Well, I do know that with women's sport and volleyball, they are now offering more positions on women's volleyball teams in college, 18, where it was previously 15. So that's more spaces on D1 teams.
Okay.
3 more on the team. So
this is just a question that I wanted to ask. So my executive producer YG, you know, may balk at this, but how has Title IX impacted you as a former collegiate athlete in any way? Has it impacted you versus obviously now? I don't even think it's relevant because of NIL, but I feel like back when I was in college, Title IX was like a thing.
Right.
There was some very clear, distinct inequalities when it comes to fundraising and student athletes in general. But I'm just curious your take.
Right. So I primarily can speak on Title IX being definitely exercised when I was in college. I remember my head coach Angie Lee as well as Lisa Bluter both talking about Title IX and, you know, kind of keeping it a little hush-hush, you know, not a whole bunch to the team, but kind of hearing a little bit of this and that and passing about what Steve Alford's Hawkeye boys basketball team is getting versus the girls team. And I know that they handled that with administration kind of more behind the scenes with us to make sure that we did get what we were supposed to get and fighting for. Like I can say, like, when you're in the Big Ten, we would fly to games. And then the question about those types of things of we have to fly or ride a bus. Whereas the men's team, they're flying, no question about it, type stuff. So I do recall some of those conversations.
Okay, sure. Yeah, and you know, obviously it's changed quite a bit. I would assume everyone's flying now. Right. You know, especially programs like the Big Ten.
Oh yeah,
which is awesome. Do you ever go back and
I haven't
do your
been back.
thing or
Right.
okay, but you probably got plans.
Oh yeah, and I stay in touch with them. Like you know, being in the basketball realm, my post coach when I played at Iowa, Jan Jensen, she's the one who was Lisa Bluter's executive assistant coach for several years. And last year and this year, after Lisa Bluter retired and Caitlin Clark were done, Jan Jensen took over as head coach. She's done an amazing job with the program. They're 15th in the nation right now. It's a strong program, year in, year out. The framework has been there, and it's known as one of the prominent teams in the country.
Okay.
So I stay in touch with my coaches. Like when I got the head coaching job, I'm texting with her about inspiration. And, one of my teammates, Randy Peterson, is one of the assistant coaches at Iowa as well. And one of my other teammates, Kara Consuegra, is the head coach at Villanova. And so, it's like you stay in your basketball circle and stay in touch with your fellow teammates and coaches and just keep everything up there. Jenny Lillis coaches as well, one of my teammates. So, and when I played in college, a lot of the girls on my team went to the WNBA. So, it's been a strong program, and it's been definitely a fun family to be part of. Like I always see out here in Iowa, like part of the reason I moved out here, there's a lot of Iowa people who are here. If you want to go watch a game, like when we were watching when Iowa's doing really, really well. This is the sports bar you can go to watch Iowa. It's all Iowa fans. And then when I went there, I didn't realize, but it's like these people come out of the woodworks and they remember me. And I'm like, they want to take pictures with me, all that, and then they friend me on Facebook. Like, like I'm saying, Iowa people are loyal, super loyal.
They are. Midwest is full of love.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
My family and I lived there for over 20 years, and
Nice.
I have the most fondest memories
Yeah.
in total. But in closing, let's give everyone a little bit of an update on your career, post career, because I would be remiss if I didn't talk about your entrepreneurial projects. You are a business owner. You're quite successful.
Thank you.
I would also like to highlight on Eastmark as the head coach. What's around the corner? What are you guys up to today? You talked about state playoffs. So maybe we could start with those two questions, and you could take it in any order. But I'd love for you to shed some light on those things as we wrap up.
Sure. So we won our region. We swept our region. And I was named Region Coach of the Year, which is really exciting, especially as a first year. Thank you. It was especially exciting as a first year head coach. And so we have state ahead of us. Behind Coach Jackson as his assistant coach last year, I kind of saw how it all worked. So it's not going to be my first rodeo, but kind of it will. The whole state thing, the brackets come out tomorrow as to who we play, scouting reports. I'm accustomed to scouting reports in college, and we're going to roll that out to the girls and take each game one at a time. And
where's state located, Coach?
So it'll be at the High Seeds home. So, but the state championships are at the state fairgrounds.
Okay.
And so those will be on March 5th at 7 p.m. at Arizona State Fairgrounds. The state playoffs start on, depending if there's any sort of a tie, it will be on February 24th, 7 p.m. Like I said, if there's some sort of a tie. Otherwise, state's playoffs start on February 26th, 7 p.m. And then the next game is February 28th. Semifinals are March 3rd. And then the championship game is March 5th.
Got you. So you let off with High Seeds. I'm not familiar.
So whoever
at their home.
Yes, at their home court.
So is it correct to say that Eastmark is one of the highest seeds?
So looking at Max Preps yesterday, we are ranked 12th in 4A.
Okay.
So
it could go either way, but that starts next week or the
week after. Most likely the 26th is not looking like there'll be a tie.
So for those of you guys that are basketball enthusiasts that want to continue to follow Coach B and the Eastmark basketball team, ladies basketball team, be sure to check her out. You have Facebook, obviously Eastmark High School. We'll definitely be giving you some shout outs there.
Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you.
Entrepreneurship, you talked about it earlier in the podcast. Please break that down. What does that look like? Because that's a whole different hat. But it's a very important hat. It pays the bills. We talked off camera about how, it's tax season right now. So there's things that Coach B is responsible for outside of scouting, outside of X's and O's that have to do with revenue and customer service and growth.
Right. So, one thing that I love about working a food truck business is that you can set your own hours. So, as a mom, as a parent, of athletes, that I am able to orient my schedule around that. So, I'm going to be the team mom for my daughter's club volleyball team when they go to Vegas, and that's 4 days carved out for that. Whereas with the regular job, you'd have to ask off for work. But I'm just like, I orient my schedule around that. I tell clients, hey, I can cater for you on this day, but not that day because I'll be out of town. And with the food truck, anybody who's there's a lot of statistics out there in the world, like most women who are successful in corporate America were played high school sports. So you learn leadership qualities. Um, and to me, most people who were leaders and played college sports know what it's like as far as the grind with thing. Like that's just a go hard mentality. Kind of like most people know anyone who's a college wrestler. Like I played, basketball at Iowa back in the day with Dan Gable when everything was beast. Like Iowa when they lost to Iowa State, which is a 2 mile drive equivalent to Tucson from here. Oh, the bus headed out without them. They had to run home. That's a 2 hour run home. Not 2 mile, 2 hour. You had to run home. You have to have a mindset to get that.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm accustomed to going hard with everything that you do. So that's my point. Like most wrestlers, anyone who knows a wrestler in life knows that they're a diehard person, super committed. When you're a D1 athlete, you're not a quitter. It's like you get a certain mindset when you continue to be in these challenges and conquer them. Like my last game that put me out of the NCAA tournament my senior year was playing against UConn. My claim to fame is that we were beating UConn, the team with Diana Taurasi and all of them at halftime. But everyone lost to UConn at that time, but I didn't want to be done. I did not want, of course, no one wants to be done.
Right.
So, but, yeah, it's just like, so you have a mindset about things and you continue to conquer. So that being said, when I got into the food business, I'm one of the longest standing food trucks in Arizona, African American and woman owned business. I was on Food Network with it. And then I kind of segued things just being, an entrepreneur. When we were on Food Network, after it would air, then my phone would blow up like a hotline and I'd hate to pass on money, right? I'd hate to turn customers away and just say sorry. So I reinvented the wheel and I created a food truck event brokerage company, Gourmet Wheels AZ. Depending on the day of the week, is the largest food truck event brokerage in the Valley. So I send food trucks to 60 different locations a week. So it's a situation where in the beginning, if my food truck wasn't available to go somewhere, then I'd hit up XYZ truck to go instead. But now I have, like I said, over 60 food trucks in my network. So sometimes when I'm with my kids in the car and I'm driving and I see a food truck and I look at my watch, I was like, hey, that food truck's going somewhere that we booked them to be at. They're late. Let me find out what's going on. That type of thing. So I had my food truck brokerage and it became a thing where my side hustle passed up my main hustle. So my food truck brokerage company, I make more money off of that than I do off of my food truck. But, so then we got two different things, speaking on the entrepreneurial spirit of things.
I didn't know about the Gourmet AZ. Oh, hold on. Let's just get this right. Gourmet Mills AZ?
Gourmet Wheels AZ. Gourmet Wheels AZ.
Clarifying.
Mm-hmm. Got to drop a gem on here.
Absolutely. Gourmet Wheels AZ.
Yes.
Which is Coach B's food truck brokerage business. And let me be clear, y'all, that is outperforming her main hustle at the time. Now, her side hustle is outperforming her main
That's correct.
hustle, which that is a testament to you grinding, you being determined. And in all seriousness, I have to go back to what you said a few minutes ago. You distinctly, you could have talked about any sport, but you said wrestlers when you and you connected that with Iowa Hawkeyes. Why did you and to piggyback on that, you said that the wrestlers are determined. There you have it. Why did you just you could have picked any sport? Why wrestlers?
So
I have a reason for asking this question, but I want to hear your rationale.
Well, one of my roommates in college dated one of the wrestlers on the team, and
okay,
I was a psych major, so I like watching people, observing how they move, and And with wrestling, it's like you don't quit, like you're fighting for your life. And like I'm saying, I don't really know anyone. Like, of course, I knew the guys on the team. They were always super respectful, hold the doors for us when we coming in and out the tunnel with the arena. Dan Gable taught those guys to be great guys. And in fact, there was a car accident. 2 boys on the team had gotten in a car accident, and they said the regular person in this accident would have died. But the wrestlers, with the mentality and the mindset that they have, they lived and they were just fine and they fully recovered.
Wow.
It's just, it's a mindset that you get in life with things.
Yeah.
Your mind is trained a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it is.
Man, we are right at time, but that's okay because I'm really loving this conversation. I have to plug the I have to piggyback on this wrestler comment. I just have to.
Yeah.
So I've only been coaching for a few years, and I am so blessed and fortunate to have met so many different families and coaches along the way that have helped me. And it's just amazing. But I do 100% unequivocally agree about the wrestler. I have 2 wrestlers on my boys' club basketball team, and I'm not going to mention their names, but y'all know who you are. Y'all know who you are. I have 2 male wrestlers on my club basketball team, and I will tell you, Coach, they are the hardest working. No quit, no drama, no. I pride my team and myself around giving 100% effort, which I'm sure you agree with, positive attitude, and energy. I said those are the non-negotiables.
Yep, sure.
You can miss as many shots, whatever layups, but you don't give me high effort, 100% effort, positive body language, and energy. We got issues.
Yeah.
These 2 boys are on their wrestling team for their respective schools in Apache Junction. I'll go there, and I tell you what, they show up. When they show up, man, they bring it. They absolutely bring it. Yeah. So I agree. And then I think back to a kid in high school. His name was Jared. He had one hand. He had a prosthetic in his other hand, or something equivalent to that. And he started as a right cornerback for my high school team. And he was the most fearless, most determined kid. And I mean, there's just a lot of truth to what you said there. So thank you for the background, because I again, you're not just a mother of young kids who are extremely talented, student athletes, well-rounded, 4.0. You're a community member. You're a head coach of Eastmark High School girls team. You're a former collegiate basketball player from the University of Iowa. You're a lot of things. You're a lot, but you're also an entrepreneur, and you're also someone who is so connected within this industry, but also this community. I mean, you came from Alaska, and then you made your way, across the freaking country to this small city called Iowa City. And then you went from Iowa City to, Eastmark, Arizona, and everywhere between.
Yeah.
So, and it's a blessing to meet you.
Thank you.
And to really have you here, for the podcast today for Pulse Check. Rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yes.
All right. You sure?
I hope so.
All right. Name one thing parents need to stop doing. Parents
need to stop stepping on the toes of coaches.
Boom. Thank you. One thing coaches need more support with.
Backing up the program with vision of the coaches, be that with fundraising.
Fundraising, reinforcing the vision of the coach in the program. Did I say that correct, Coach?
That's absolutely right.
One thing athletes should remember on hard days.
Everything's not always going to go your way, but give 100% effort. and don't be selfish. Keep a positive attitude and support your team, even if things aren't going your way.
Priceless. Best advice you give your own daughter or daughters?
If you work hard and give your best effort, trust the process and things will work out the way it's meant to be for you.
That's it. Trust the process. Last and final question, Coach. Something you wish someone told you at the age of 15.
Start thinking about what you want to do as your college career, after college, as your career in life. Start early thinking about what you want to do in life.
All gems, all substantial content. Coach, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
You know, it's meaningful work, but it's an experience that people need to do more of. And as I close out this podcast, you know, Pulse Check recently went through another series of changes. And, you know, those changes were inevitable, but, you know, I do want to speak about it. But I think it all kind of comes full circle because regardless of where paths may take us individually or as a group, I think it's important to really understand that, you know, to coaches, Coach B's rapid fire answers, her answers are applicable to young adults, to senior citizens, to parents, coaches, administrators. We all need to just take a step back, focus on the quality of the conversation, and really encourage this reconnection point of just mingling and getting together. And I cannot be I'm so ecstatic to have you here as our guest today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, it's been great. You know, my biggest thing is in life is giving back. You know, good things happen for you when you do good things for people. You know, I've been blessed. I've had so many amazing coaches in my life, so many amazing mentors, people who believed in me to get to where I've been, you know, continuous mentors in life still yet. You know, I'm not in coaching for the money. Most coaches aren't, you know. I'm in this to give back. You know, I'm on the HOA board in my community to give back. You know, it just feels so great to give back. It's gratifying to help others.
100%. 100%. You know, this was today's Pulse Check, y'all. And I mean, if you guys take anything away from the message today, you know, just follow us, like us, share us, start to believe that we want to bring you guys these stories. If you're a parent, if you're a coach, if you're an athlete listening, this isn't about blaming a group. This isn't about attacking a certain skill set or training. This is about telling our stories. And I think the beauty of this is the awareness piece, applying effort, and just respecting the process. Youth sports should be about the people, and it should build people and not break them.
Right.
And, you know, as someone who follows it closely and is a huge fan of sports, to being a parent and a coach myself, and to my right here, aligning with another that is my equal, and it's just so powerful. So it made me think about a lot of things. It really made me think about, you know, us being grounded, and, you know, just being honest about the situation, and, you know, really creating a pulse on what's happening. So that's Pulse Check, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, peace.
Thank you.